Darrell describes this as an isolated incident difficult to comprehend.
It's a beautiful block with beautiful people. People think because we're in East Harlem, we only serve people from East Harlem. People come from all over here.
What's the flavor of this block? What's it taste like?
Well, it tastes like salsa.
East Harlem in the 1980s, as described by some of the people who live and work there. A vibrant neighborhood known as El Barrio, influenced by Latino communities that have shaped its identity and character to this very day. Hi, I'm Dana Tyler. Thank you for taking a look back with us. We continue to focus on a CBS 2 community series from 4 decades ago called Our Block. Vic Miles, the reporter in all of these stories. In today's episode, he takes us to 116th Street, an area of Spanish Harlem known as the Commercial Corridor. The year, 1986, the block, as you can see, bustling with businesses, business owners, immigrants working hard to establish their roots, and shoppers coming from both near and far to eat and shop.
The sounds of our block, East 116th Street, just west of 3rd Avenue. The music is the salsa signature of the Latino heritage that calls this area El Barrio. And for thousands of the city's Spanish-speaking citizens, our block is the closest thing to the old island traditions you'll find in Manhattan.
It's the main commercial corridor of East Harlem. It's one of the anchors, commercial district.
What's the flavor of this block? What's it taste like?
Well, it tastes like salsa. It's a strong block.
Henry Calderon, a second-generation businessman on our block, took his test for a broker's license yesterday. He sees a future here.
We have opening up a new mini department store across the street, and you don't see any empty spaces. It's full. It's a very strong commercial area.
It's a beautiful block with beautiful people.
Cristina Barriero inherited the Casa Latina music store from her father.
People think because we're in East Harlem, we only serve people from East Harlem. People come from all over here.
What do you buy around here?
Meat, clothes, fish, anything. Anything.
It's a good area for shopping?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it bad at all.
Really? Do you live around here?
No. We live, I live up in the Bronx.
And you come all the way down?
All the way.
We're trying to do a program this summer where we'll pick one night a week. We'll call it East Harlem or El Barrio Night.
Yeah.
We'll stay open till maybe 9 o'clock at night.
All this talk about changing times in our block reminds me of growing up around here. At one time, this theater was 11 cents to get in, and you got a comic book, a double feature, and the latest in an adventure serial. Well, those days are gone forever, but there are those who remember them.
I'm Harry.
Yeah, Harry. How long you been here, Harry?
Quarter century.
Say again?
A quarter century.
That's the same as 25 years?
Yeah, something like that, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And what you been doing?
I'm selling shoes.
Harry the Shoe Man works about 5 stalls up the corner from Lexington Avenue and uptown Orchard Street gone Latin. An immigrant Polish survivor of Nazi occupation, he remembers what our block was like a generation ago.
The young generation didn't want to come in here anymore.
I see.
Yeah, so that was this. It's almost the end of our era. That what I forget this.
You got some very good shoes. They're very reasonable. You could stand a better play here than going to Alexander's or Bloomingdale's. You know, you
Plus, you've lived in the area, you save car fare. You stay right here and buy it. Keep the money right here in Harlem.
But despite progress, our block does share many of the city's problems.
And I'll take you around 2 blocks either way. You'll see cokeheads, you'll see crackheads laying all over the place. But that's not a problem in East Harlem. That's a citywide problem. We have a little colony of homeless folks that sleep across the street. Some folks who beg for cash over here. Yeah. It's just like the rest of the city, the good parts and the bad.
But it's commerce that has kept our block alive and looking to the future.
There's a lot of hope here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's really what's good about it. There's a lot of hope. A lot of people are opening stores. What we have to do is build on that hope. Get my good side.
Next week, back on our block. Vic Miles, Channel 2 News.
The late Vic Miles, a remarkable storyteller. So we wanted to check in on 116th Street now, see how it's changed, how it stayed the same. And joining us now is Jesse Mitchell, our Harlem community reporter. Welcome. So glad that you're going to give us some perspective here.
Thanks,
tell us, do the time contrasts. Let us know.
Well, some of those conversations Vic had were just so quintessential, and that really stands the test of time. It is a very changing landscape, but the people of East Harlem still refer to it as El Barrio, and they claim that Spanish Harlem name with pride. And so even though things are changing, there are still some things that withstand that test of time. You see the fast food joints are there. There's a Chipotle on the block now, but one of the names that you saw flashing in lights was Cuchifritos. And that is still there. It is a Puerto Rican pork shop. They serve everything from the rooter to the tooter. That's what my grandpa used to call every part of the pig, and that's how I bonded with Victor Perez, who comes there all the time, coming down from the Bronx just to get a taste of home that falls off the bone.
I was born and raised here. This is where it's at. This is what my mother used to buy, and she rest in peace. My father and everybody else, and everything is good here.
Nice. What about the Casa Latina music store?
Yeah, so even though Cuchifritos is still there, it's one of the few remaining. One of the biggest changing signs of the times is Casa Latina, and that was a shop that you saw featured throughout Vic's piece, and they were really the soundtrack of that piece with the music pouring onto the street. Our colleague Elle McLogan actually went back there in 2021 to see how they had kind of bounced back from hard times, even though dealing with the pandemic and the challenges of that. And so sadly they had to close last summer. They, you know,
just so recently.
Yes, they just closed last summer. And then unfortunately just in June, Vicente Barrero, he passed away. And so that was a really big name in the community. Everybody looked to their shop for that feeling of home, for that music. And unfortunately it has closed, and their legacy does live on with the music that they shared.
So East 116th Street. Now let's go to 106th. Tell us about what you found there.
Yeah, so that is where the music has shifted down about 10 blocks, but it is a beautiful scene. Every Wednesday, they are bringing the cultural corridor to life. There are parties on the block, and it is just beautiful to see the generations, people parking their walkers and wheelchairs to go dance on the floor. This young lady right here in the front is 91 years young. She's there every week, getting it on, dancing, and everybody's having a blast. It is really beautiful to see, and that is how they keep that legacy alive, even with entrepreneurs there selling their wares.
This here brings us together. Everybody's doing their business, everybody's dancing, enjoying, talking, and it's part of who we are.
That is great. Vibrancy, bringing it back. That's certainly that woman is Vibrancy. That should be her last name. This commercial corridor, you had a conversation with the chair of the current community board. What stood out most for you, Jesse, in that conversation?
Yeah, so Xavier Santiago, he's born and raised on the block, and he has really seen things change from the time that he was a kid, but he's one of the main ones now trying to get a business improvement district for this commercial corridor. See what he has to say.
Filmmaker and neighborhood leader Xavier Santiago has seen mom and pop shops shut down and the demographics shift as costs go up for landlords and tenants alike.
It's all borne by both parties at the end of the day, and that gets passed along if you look at the business modeling.
Now more mainstream names line each side of 116th Street, backed by corporations able to afford the appealing locale.
When you have tenants such as key tenants such as Burger King and others, everyone knows those brands. But when it comes to a brand of a neighborhood, we need places like Casa Latina, right? Without those, we lose our identity.
But a bid takes buy-in. Each of the owners would have to invest in their collective commerce. Former community board colleague Debbie Quinones has helped to rename streets in honor of the neighborhood's historic heroes, one of the steps towards preservation. We met at Perch, near the weekly party on 106th, where you can usually find her with neighbors dancing all worries away, inside of the mosaic she helped commission commemorating the culture.
Upper Manhattan is going through a significant change in terms of identity, in terms of infrastructure, you know, like what's being built, who's coming in, who's telling our stories. So yeah, a lot has changed, but I think that there's also a commitment from folks to kind of keep telling the story.
And Santiago shows the shops what could be possible with each other's support.
We have cash mobs in combination with Union Settlement and our other partners such as Uptown Grand Central, who blasted out and trying to get people to buy local. That's how we help these businesses thrive.
So interesting to get that important comparison. You can do that too. Tell us what it felt like, because you had Vic's story in your head, right?
Yes.
So to actually go there, what did you take away?
It was really interesting because you see how dependent the neighborhood is on this commercial corridor, but at the same time you do still see these struggles, these small business owners fighting to make a dollar and that money being circulated in the neighborhood. But then you have a changing population. There are significantly more Mexicans selling on the street than Puerto Ricans now, and you do still see some elements of drug use and homelessness, but overall you can tell it's right on the cusp. It could go either way of really moving forward and being a thriving future corridor of business or not. But at the same time, it's right along this new stretch of the 2nd Avenue subway that's going to expand.
That could bring a lot of hope, right? A lot of traffic.
In a few years. So, you know, there's a lot that needs to happen.
No, it's a few years.
Right.
It keeps getting farther.
It's going to get worse before it gets better for that.
Tough. Right. Also, I was just wondering, when we saw the, people dancing, did you get involved there?
Oh, well, you can't help but move to those beats. The live music, it just takes you away. It's really, you feel the community on those nights.
That music, so important, that culture. Jessie Mitchell, thank you so much, our Harlem community journalist. All right, so next week we are going to take a look back at a block in Flushing, Queens. Vic takes us to Union Street and 41st Avenue, sharing the stories of both longtime residents and new immigrants. This is back in the 80s. Both groups of people making their mark and bringing their cultures to the changing community. Our Queens community reporter, Elle McLogan, will take us back to the very same block to see what's changed. Thank you for watching A Look Back. You can see more episodes on our website, cbsnewyork.com. I'm Dana Tyler. See you next time.
Gerald Strong has been an isolated incident in the